There was a time when America didn't ask for permission. It asked, "Where is the mountain?" Before the code, before the keyboard, there was dynamite, dust, and pure nerve. There is a scar in the Rocky Mountains. You have probably driven through it, but you never stop to ask why it is there. Because this was not just built to connect towns, it was built to survive war. At 11,158 feet above sea level, the most important tunnel you have never heard about lies. This is a story about a time when America did not debate ambition. It engineered it. The Eisenhower Tunnel is not a shortcut through Colorado. It is a Cold War commandment etched in granite. The country was not just racing against snowstorms, it was racing against missiles. This was no molehill. This was the Continental Divide, a fortress of ancient stone, unyielding, immovable, unforgiving. And instead of going around it, America split it. Not with computer simulations, not with drones, with slide rules, with boots, with dynamite, and with men who knew the warning was simple: don't screw up, or you die. To most, it is a highway tunnel. But what most Americans see as a road was actually a military corridor with Cold War lineage, built to move fuel, troops, missiles, fast. Even if the coasts were gone, Eisenhower did not just want roads, he wanted resilience. And deep inside these mountains, his plan came to life. The drill did not scream, it howled. Steel against stone, man against the impossible. The air was thin, the ground unstable. Some days, they moved 6 inches. That is not a metaphor. That is the war they fought. Rock bursts didn't just injure, they exploded with enough force to decapitate. Floods emerged from cracked seams. Toxic gases leaked from geologic time capsules. Day 194. We lost a man today. Collapse at face. No warning. Just gone. Every safety rule you see today? It was written in response to something that already went wrong here. No satellites. No AI. Just a team of cold coughing men, hardened by war, armed with tape measures and courage. Where others saw an unbreakable wall, one engineer saw a blueprint, and he swore this mountain would fall. Most drive through it in 30 seconds, but this tunnel took America years and blood to earn. What they didn't tell the public was that this tunnel was drawn on military maps long before it ever touched tourist brochures. Buried in those blueprints was a brutal assumption. If the Cold War went hot, America needed to move fast, over mountains, under fire, while everything else was burning. That's why this tunnel wasn't just reinforced, it was militarized. Redundant power feeds, hardened against blast shock. Ventilation fans that could reverse airflow in seconds to purge toxins. Walls embedded with reinforcement, well above civilian code, built to resist nukes. Wired to survive electromagnetic pulses, and not one civilian was told why. At this altitude, the air thins, engines stall, blood oxygen drops, machinery failed, shifts collapsed. One worker passed out, recovered, and came back the next day. Why? Because this was not a job. This was a mission. You won't find statues for these men. But America runs on their silence. Henry lost 3 fingers and a vertebrae, but he never missed a shift. They didn't complain. They didn't post. They just kept drilling. Every day the mountain adapted, shifted, fought back. One miscalculated blast, and the tunnel imploded on itself. 0 fatalities. But it was a warning. Don't forget, you are inside the enemy. In avalanche zones above, the sky wanted collapse. Underground, the granite wanted revenge. Mechanics were our generals. Surveyors were our spies. Welders were our shield makers. No AI, No computer-aided design, just nerves, math, and mortar. Every inch forward was earned in blood, sweat, and seismic risk. Imagine drilling into fractured rock at high altitude with no backup power during a whiteout. Now imagine doing it knowing, if you stop, America can't move. And if America can't move, it can't win. This tunnel wasn't just to keep traffic flowing. It was built to stay open after a nuclear strike. This was no longer engineering. This was war theory made concrete. The public saw convenience. The Pentagon saw strategic mobility. If a city fell, this was a corridor to continuity. In a Cold War, power is not just about weapons. It is about movement. A country that can't supply itself cannot survive. This tunnel didn't just split a mountain, it split history. Today, tourists pass through like it is just another mile marker. They don't see the pressure-tested airflow systems, the military-grade reinforcements, the redundant escape shafts. But they are still there, and they are still watching. Once the tunnel proved possible, everything changed. Engineers started thinking bigger, faster, more permanent. They stopped avoiding terrain. They started dominating it. And the Eisenhower Tunnel? That was the blueprint. Most drive through it in 30 seconds. But what is under this asphalt is America's quiet answer to war. When the final drill broke through and daylight came screaming into the tunnel, a question echoed inside every agency that had watched it happen. If we could do this, what else could we force open? Mountain passes, canyons, avalanche zones, seismic regions, all of them suddenly negotiable. Just miles away, engineers were told to avoid another natural barrier, the Colorado River Gorge. Instead, they embedded a superhighway inside the canyon. The result? A 12-mile stretch of road that looks scenic, but was secretly one of the most complex roadway systems ever built. Steel was bolted into cliff faces. Bridge segments were hung over open air. Lanes were designed to flex under seismic stress. Drainage systems were buried to redirect flash floods. Avalanche sheds were built to let snow pass over traffic, not bury it. Sensors were hidden in concrete. Cameras monitored rock shifts. The canyon was not avoided, it was subdued. Every decision, from elevation changes to slope angles, was analyzed not just for traffic flow, but for resilience under attack. Because inside Cold War planning circles, one thing was clear. The battlefield was not overseas, it was infrastructure. If war ever reached American soil, bridges, tunnels, and roads would not just carry tanks. They would carry the future. Before these projects, avalanches dictated the rules. After them, America did. Entire slopes were mapped and detonated on command. Debris was redirected. Traffic kept flowing. The mountains did not get gentler. America just stopped asking permission. This wasn't a federal contractor punch-in job. It was a gauntlet. Surveyors who hung off cliffs. Drillers who slept in oxygen tents. Foremen who could calculate rock angles by feel. One worker lost his hearing from a mistimed blast. Another got frostbite in August. One crewman was crushed beneath a rockfall, rescued by hand, and came back to work 2 days later. Every team had one, the guy who could make a seized diesel engine work in -20 degrees. No manual, no YouTube tutorial, just instinct. He was the magician. And in the Rockies, magic was mandatory. Because the mountain didn't care about your budget. It only respected force. There are no statues, no national holidays. But beneath this tunnel are pieces of men. Bones, memories, blood mixed into rebar and concrete. Most see a tunnel. But under this asphalt is the hum of a country that refused to stop. This road wasn't built to help traffic. It was built to stay open when nothing else could. America knew if missiles flew, if the coasts were hit, if rail failed. This tunnel had to stand. Buried in federal documents is one chilling truth. This corridor was modeled not for efficiency, but for survivability. Evacuation flow, fuel logistics, command vehicle access. Every detail was designed to withstand collapse. Even today, many of the systems inside are never discussed publicly. The lighting is redundant. The power feeds are shielded. The ventilation is programmable to seal off chemical threats. Because this tunnel wasn't just a way through a mountain, it was a vault, a fortress, a last line. Most just see pavement, a line on a map. But if you listen closely, you can hear the hum. It's the sound of steel, concrete, and country refusing to be stopped. Once this mountain fell, America's mindset shifted forever. Because when you prove you can split a mountain, you stop asking what's possible and start asking, what's next? After years of blood, breakdowns, and near-death close calls, the drill met open air. There was no ceremony, no news crew, just one final boom, and daylight came pouring through. For the first time in history, America had punched clean through the Rockies. It didn't just connect East and West. It united war plans with highways. It made sure trucks could keep rolling, even if everything else failed. It became the most reliable road through one of the world's most unreliable terrains. And most Americans never even knew. This wasn't just about infrastructure. It was strategic redundancy. If ports were hit, this stayed open. If rail was sabotaged, this kept moving. If nukes fell, this became a route to relocate command, a hardened artery in America's nervous system, and it all sat beneath ski traffic and tourists, like nothing was there. Every fan, every backup system, every wiring conduit was designed with one brutal question in mind. Can it still function after the world falls apart? You weren't supposed to notice. That was the point. The tunnel itself is the monument. No one carved a plaque for Henry McCoy. No parades for Tom, the man who lost 3 fingers and kept showing up. But every truck that moves through that tunnel is his medal. And every child that gets a warm meal in a Colorado blizzard is the legacy. You were never taught this in school. Because the real story of American infrastructure is not about budgets or bids. It's about risk, sacrifice, and decisions made with no margin for failure. This was Eisenhower's America, not one that asked if we should, one that asked how fast we could finish. This was not just a tunnel. It was a funeral for hesitation. It said, "We will not be limited by terrain. We will not be slowed by nature. We will not be divided by mountains." Once this road opened, supply chains shifted. Ski towns exploded. Populations pushed west. Commerce found new speed. Suddenly, 30-second drives replaced 3-day delays. That's how you rewrite geography. Power is not just missiles or nukes. It is the ability to move. And when you build a tunnel that can survive a nuclear strike, you're not just making a road. You're declaring dominance. What most never realized, once this tunnel proved itself, dozens of secondary routes were reinforced behind the scenes. Why? Because redundancy is survival. This is military logic applied to civilian freedom. They drive through it now like it is nothing. But everything they do depends on what was done here. You may not have swung the hammer. You may not have set the charge. But this story is built from the same spirit that built you. The welders, the surveyors, the drill men, they were soldiers without medals, and America runs on their work. The mountain did not win, and neither did hesitation. America made the call, then built the impossible. Because there was a time when we did not ask if something could be done. We asked, where is the mountain?